Excuse me. Please forgive me, as I don't really like asking for help. But do you know what would make a good intro? Just kidding. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Daily People podcast, where we talk about achievements, have fun, and each guest is certified as awesome. I'm your host, John Mark Spear. Let's go. Colton Kincy.
What up?
What's up,
It's
big dog?
It's your boy Big C, aka CK from the Bay, aka Big Chungus, coming to you live from Longview, Texas. How's it going, John Mark?
You know, I've known you for quite a bit, and I think that's only the second time I've ever heard you say all those words run together.
Was the first time when we had to restart this podcast because my headphones died?
Absolutely, it was. But
All right, well, that's good to know.
I'll give you all the grace in the world, man, because I love you, and that's what I do. I extend grace and love others.
Love you too, brother.
Yeah, man. So, hey, welcome to Daily People, by the way, if I didn't say that. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So recently, you've had kind of an interesting run over the past 4 or 5 years. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so graduated college from the University of Oklahoma in the fall of 2016. Majored in chemical engineering. Right out of college, was able to take advantage of an opportunity with Eastman Chemical Company as a process improvement engineer. Worked there for a little over 2 years before getting laid off. And then since then, just, I've moved around. I moved to Dallas, moved back to Longview, just kind of trying to take advantage of different opportunities while also kind of trying to figure out this whole life thing, learning what's important, what's not in the grand scheme of things. Truly finding my happiness would be the way that I would put it, and we'll get a little bit more into that as we go on, but that's where I've been, and I'm glad to be where I'm at today.
Yeah. So truly trying to find your happiness. I actually feel like, just from watching outside, kind of looking in, I feel like that would really describe your path over the past 4 years. But like I said, we'll get into that here in a bit. So, and give me a brief rundown of your awesome life when you were in college.
Yeah. So in college, enrolled in OU in the fall of 2012. I rushed. So I was in the Greek system. Rush Lambda Chi, which is, one of the better chapters, I would say, there if you're on the outside looking in,
is there a big Greek population up in OU?
There is. When I was there, so the 4 years I was there from 12 to 16, in between 25 and 30% of the student population was involved in Greek life in some sort of capacity. So it's very popular. When you look at kind of student leadership, be it student government, which is, kind of the college version of student council, you look at student government, you look at like the homecomings, the dance marathons, the big student run charity events and organizations. Most of them, if not all of them, were led by someone in Greek life. So I can definitely say that's a huge vessel for people. If you did want to get into more leadership opportunities, you usually rushed. So that's what really kind of piqued my interest into doing so.
So you were in Lambda Chi.
I was.
You said you rushed your first year. And
I did.
I hit you with a different question. Yeah. So Lambda Chi, you rushed your first year. You have several leadership opportunities, relationship building, all that stuff. What was the Lambda Chi experience for Colton Kincy?
For me, I mean, yeah, you look at the stereotypes and you see the partying, drugs, all that stuff. And to an extent, some of that's true. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that a lot of, social life didn't center. And I personally was never into drugs, but it's kind of a part of the equation,
Oh, definitely so.
I definitely, was involved in the drinking aspect and the partying of that on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, especially game days, Oklahoma being a huge football school. The tailgates are a big deal. Football's a big deal.
Well, when in college, do as the college students do, right?
Yeah, to an extent. You don't want to, and kind of going back, that's what rushing kind of taught me, was how to make a schedule and stick to that schedule, because you do have so much going on during the week. You're a first year college student.
Mm-hmm.
You're, really for the first time, for most, this isn't true for all people, but for most, you're on your own. You have all this freedom. You can go to class. You cannot go to class. You can do your homework. You cannot do your homework. Of course, for me, going to class really wasn't an option. I was going to go to class. That's just the way I'm wired.
Mm-hmm.
So learning to make that schedule and fit in the extracurricular activities with classwork, and then you have even more outside of rushing, because you're trying to find all these other things to do on campus and meeting other people, going to these OU scheduled events to meet, other freshmen and try to expand your network. So it really helped me with scheduling and time management. And that really carried through throughout the rest of my college career. But yeah, overall, the Lambda Chi experience, just because of the quality of guys that I had the opportunity to, make friendships and lifelong bonds with, was really good. I met some really great people that I still talk to almost every single day. Just yesterday, I was in a group message with 3 of my really good friends from college, just talking about OU football, the highs and the lows the entire time, So it was a very rewarding experience with both the goods and the bads, because yes, some of the stereotypes do hold true, but there's a lot more that goes on inside of Greek life. And a lot of people just want to see the bad, but if you're in it, then you get to see both the bad and the good, and the amount of service and volunteer opportunities and just kind of the community that you do form, as well with the sorority girls. There's some amazing women that I met in college as well that I'm still friends with to this day. So it was a very good experience for me.
The relationship side of really just any part of college is truly incredible. You're talking about people that you rushed with, that you're texting yesterday, talking Oklahoma football with. I think that's just part of getting out of college and being an adult, but also making sure that you're still maintaining those relationships. And, touching on that, I mean, I've still got a group from when I was in college that the group name is May Tag Time. And we play tag during the whole month of May, but we live all across the United States of America. So, we've got a punishment necklace. It's a puka shell necklace that, any surfer bro would love. We all play tag during the month of May and try to hide from each other. But really that's the time where we continue to connect with all of our classmates and just each other, and just keep continuing building those relationships. And I think it's a strong thing to continue to do moving forward.
Yeah. And
it's easy to let a relationship die.
Yeah. And me and you both, being from East Texas, Spring Hill, kind of a niche community, we're just kind of exposed to this one way of looking at things our entire life, and then you go to college. And I don't know if it's like that everywhere. I'm sure it is, but I'm sure there are people that live in, whenever people asked me in college, because they heard my accent and, like, oh, where are you from? And I would always say Longview, Texas, somewhere along those lines. And they would ask what it's like there. And I would say, essentially, when you think of the South, that's where it begins, is really East Texas. Once you go about an hour east of Dallas on I-20, that's where you start getting into kind of stereotypical SEC territory, is I guess the way that I would put it.
Yeah, I would consider it like Texas South.
Yeah.
Like you have where I'm at over in Arkansas. I mean, you get out of the city, you're in the South,
Right.
or you drive north to Missouri, and if you're in southern Missouri, you're still in the South. But it's definitely a Texas South culture there, where everybody's got their boots, and people think that we all ride horses, and we don't have. Everybody's got a truck, of course. It's just part of where we grew up. But
and the thing is, like, to some extent, that's true. But in other capacities, there is a lot more that goes on around here, than just that. Both good and bad, just like with every community.
So going back to the group text that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You, me, and a couple of our other friends who we can leave them nameless if we want to, are in a group text, and I have come to learn that you are a man of great wit when it comes to your words. Where did you learn that awesome
I'm a
skill?
man of memes.
A man
You're
of
right.
memes. Oh, well, you're a man of memes too, but your vernacular is incredible, and you can really, you can string the words together. What's your inspiration? How
That I
long?
can.
How long does it take you to kind of get some of that stuff together?
Nowadays, it doesn't take me long, and a lot of that was because I was so bad at that for years,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just listening to people talk, you start to pick up on things and ways to say things. And really only in the past few years, I would say, I mean, you can ask, this, in particular, along with a lot of people. Like I was terrible at that until probably a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something that I really enjoy doing just because, and I'm a big Twitter guy. I love Twitter. Just seeing some of the jokes and all that, you start to pick up on it, and it just kind of starts to snap to you at certain times. And some of them are extremely stupid, and I know that, but I post it anyway because I think it's absolutely hilarious.
So the funny thing about our group is really it's a group where all of you guys just roast me. I have no other way to say it, but the group name is JM the Type, and give us an example of the kind of roasting that would go with JM the Type.
So I do have to give a lot of credit for this too. And I do want to be clear, John Mark, the reason that we do roast you, and me and another member of the group were talking about this the other day, is because you have not reached the capacity of our wit yet. You are still in the baby stages. You might get there one day, and I hope you do.
Lord.
I really do. But right now, you're in the baby stages. So once you start battling wit with wit, then we'll be in business, and it might become DK the Type or etc. the Type, but
whatever. Answer the question.
Yeah. So I think one of the main ones, JM the Type, to bring a plague upon both of our houses, him just being this awful, terrible person who just can't do anything right, just cannot battle wit with wit, and it's really situational though, because you'll usually rebut with something, and that just puts some more bullets in the chamber for us to fire right back at you.
Right.
So that's where it really grows. It doesn't really start with one person just coming out and starting a joke. It's really all situational based on your dumb responses. So kudos to you for that.
Somebody's got to stir the pot, and why not? Why not me?
That's very true.
Yeah. So it was kind of funny, man, that today we go to church and my pastor is wearing boots, and I love to roast my pastor. And all I could do, he's a skinny jean wearing dude who usually wears like white tennis shoes, and he's wearing boots today. And all I could think about, his name's Bronson. All I could think about is Bronson the type to wear boots with shoestrings.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have fit in our church group text, and y'all wouldn't.
No, the church might have frowned upon that type of roasting.
Probably so. It's unlikely. I don't know. We're kind of a tough group. We're at New Life downtown.
That's good though. But the good humor is always, like you can take it. You don't get defensive because we all love you and are really good friends with you. We're just having a good time. It just happens to be at your expense at this particular moment in time. So
I'm not a battle of wits kind of guy. I think I'm just a win at all costs kind of guy, and wits is not one of my forms of currency.
Win at all costs. Yeah, you do tend to go for some very personal. You go for the jugular, and it really just catches people off guard and just. Dang.
Yeah. So we're going through this thing. We're kind of talking about humility. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes Colton Kincy tick?
To be honest, and I'm just going to kind of go, it used to be the money, the prestige of what I did. that from the outside, you look at me and you see, I'm this fresh out of college chemical engineer with a Fortune 500 company, kind of moving up in the ranks there, taking advantage of leadership opportunities. And I just cared what you saw me as. Okay. I didn't care how I felt about what I was becoming or who I was. It was all about the image from the outside, which I do want to speak on here after this, if we have a chance to speak a little bit on social media, because I kind of have a opinion on what that's kind of doing to our society, and
the floor is yours. We can talk about whatever.
Yeah. So real quick, and we'll get back into what gets me out of bed, is when I look at social media today, you see essentially, the three major platforms I would say are the Instagram, the Twitter, and the Facebook.
Absolutely.
Right. Facebook being the spearhead. Instagram being, in my opinion, the superficial social media, because you can only post pictures. Right. And then Twitter, my personal favorite, is just kind of reserved for more of who you are. Yeah, the jokes, the honest opinions. And that's why I really enjoy Twitter. And there's good and bad to it. But the Facebook has become kind of this moral battleground, I feel like.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of older people are on Facebook,
I would almost consider Facebook one of the streamliners of the cancel culture that we live in. I
agree. Yeah. It's very much I'm going to surround myself only with like-minded people who agree what I agree with. So I get all these likes on my pictures and posts. And that stays true to an extent to other social media too. Twitter, me personally, I follow a lot of people that agree with my views and a lot of people that disagree with my views. That way I'm not hearing the same thing and people are always telling me that I'm this genius and I'm right. And my views are always evolving based on the facts that I see. And then Instagram, my personal, it's probably my least favorite of the three, because it is strictly based on, it is a look driven platform.
Have you ever really tried to grow your Instagram?
No, and I'm not going to.
So when I was kind of working my photography account for a little bit, I'd get on and I would YouTube a lot of Instagram growth, organic growth type things. And you're talking about it being an appearance deal. Well, it really is. Things that you don't even think about, like, making sure that your grid all looks the same, or you still have kind of the same filter for each picture, or I can't. You do all your stories, kind of in the same deal. It's an interesting, but continue what you're going with. It's just real superficial.
Yeah, and you see, of course, the influencers, a lot of mainly women, some men on their influencers, and you see them on these pictures, and then you see them in real life, in like a candid everyday photo, and they look absolutely nothing like what they look like on Instagram or on different photo platforms, because of, and you hear it's all about the angle. They have editing software. There's all this different stuff that goes into making you on the surface look as good as possible.
Oh yeah. So like they rented this Ferrari from somebody who they don't even know, just so they can get a couple photos with it.
Right. It's all about the clout. It's all about kind of going back to what I was talking about, just starting out. It's how do I look on the outside? What is the best version that I can put on the surface of who I am? And it probably isn't all it's cracked up to be. In some instances it is, and that's great for those people, but I've always been a fan of taking social media at face value for what it is, not making it into anything more. Like I try to be my authentic self as much as I can, so that people don't get this idea that I'm someone that I'm not.
That's a good way to go. You kind of start off talking about this, it used to, when you get out of bed, it was about the money and the prestige of working for a Fortune 500 company. And that was what you thought filled you.
Yes. When
did you figure out that was not fulfilling?
When I got laid off from Eastman. And then at that point, I went down a dark path. I was not happy. I thought I lost everything. Like the world was crumbling down, and my dad had passed away about a year and a half prior to that happening. So I thought everything was just going downhill. So I kind of submitted to that, saying, well, my life is just going to suck and I'm just going to let it suck, essentially. And I didn't look around me and look at all the blessings that I really had. My family, my friends, the communities that I've formed, the people who genuinely cared about me. I thought that that because of this happening, and it's just a brief moment in time. There are jobs out there everywhere. It's not like losing a job is the end, but for some people and me at that time, it felt like it or felt like it,
Yeah.
So whenever I really didn't have the money, the prestige, this past year from January to really now, because I'm starting a new job here in the next few weeks. But I've worked at a tire shop, and essentially I went from making $40 an hour on salary. So that's not, an exact number, to $12 an hour.
Yeah.
And this past year, really in the last 8 months, it's the happiest that I've ever been. And that's because I don't take for granted the things and the people that I have in my life anymore that I used to, because I thought that my love was always conditional based on how well I perform. And it's not.
No.
At least for my true friends and family, it is just based on who I am and who I become as a person.
Yeah. As your friend, I feel like I can tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those times in your life where I knew I just had to be patient. I feel like there are many people who just kind of want to just push, like, their friend gets in a place kind of similar to where you were, and they just want to push and push and push and push and push, and that ends up destroying a friendship. But I kind of knew that I had to wait and be patient. And you're truly the person now that I was always confident that you would be.
Yeah, I was telling some my friends about that you told me that the other day, and that really meant a lot to me, because I know what you meant,
Yeah.
And I can say the same thing to you. I think for a lot of people in our friend group in particular, the sky is the limit. And that's another thing that I'm learning is the biggest mistake that I can make is not worrying about other people not thinking this and that of me, but it's me not thinking that I am worth it and me underestimating myself to where, you look at almost, and I've kind of going from an engineering businessy type job, office meetings, presentations, to just a manual labor job. And you see the different viewpoints in people in both professions and kind of what got them to where they are. The mistake that the majority, and it's sad to say that the majority of the population, in my opinion, makes is they just never try. They never apply for that job. They never quit a job to pursue something that they're truly passionate about. They never find out what they want to do in their life. And that's kind of the experience that I'm going through. I don't know exactly what I want to do yet, but I'm finding out. And that's kind of the beauty of it.
Well, dude, the point on trying, I don't see any reason why somebody shouldn't try to do something. If you have an idea, run it down. That's what I'm doing with this podcast, right? Right now, I'll give up the whole plan that I have for this podcast. It is start off with your friends, kind of grassroots, and just talk about the real stuff. And then when you get done, use it as a networking opportunity to go, okay, well, I interviewed Colton Kincy, but I want to know somebody who Colton Kincy looks up to that I could also interview as well. So,
right.
The idea is to grow a podcast, and I think it's a good thing to pursue those ideas and pursue those dreams. And you had said something while we were talking the other day about potentially starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
Heck if I know, dude. I'm like one of those people where another thing I've learned is when I wake up in the morning, I can choose to have a good day or I can choose a bad day. And I can choose to restart my day at any time I want to. I could wake up and I could stub my toe. Then I could cut my face while shaving. be late to work, not be able to find my keys. Then my truck doesn't start and all this stuff. And then at that point, my day, I could just decide, well, this day is going to be complete crap and let it continue to be complete crap. Or I could say, oh, well, let's just keep on moving. What can I do? I can't control that. I can control my reaction to that situation. I can control how I respond, but I can't control that those things happen. And that's true in 95% of my life. It's going to involve interactions with other people. And as much as I want to be able for that outcome to be favorable for me, I can't make that happen. Mm-hmm. I got to roll with it. I got to take it at face value, say, okay, this is what the situation is, and then respond accordingly.
I read a book a while ago by Urban Meyer called Above the Line, where he talks about how he built his culture at Ohio State. And one of the things that he talks about in this book, it's a formula in the foundation of the culture. The formula is event plus response equals outcome. And so the event was 90% of what happens, 10% of the formula was the response, and then the equals outcome, as the whole pie. But yeah, you get out of bed, you stub your toe, how do you respond? Mm-hmm. I would just say an optimist you are, because choosing to respond the way that you do is what makes everything else in the rest of your day or whatever it is that you're working towards positive.
Yeah. And I want to be clear that, for really prior to these past, I would say I've been kind of on that experience of responding positively, but the past 2 years, and you can, 100% back this up. The 2 years prior to that, it was the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. It was, well, I could wait. I could get up and nothing happened to me and everything be just fine and could have a great day planned out in front of me. But because I wanted that day to suck because of the way I was feeling, that day was going to suck. Yeah. Right. And that's the mindset that I carried, and it made me miserable. It's all about mindset and attitude too, which kind of go hand in hand. Those are essentially synonyms. And you sit here and you can have the attitude of, we only get one trip around the sun multiple times on this planet. And I don't want to look back in 20 years when I'm finally, if I did happen to find my happiness in 20 years and look back and say, man, why didn't I do this sooner? Because I'm finding it now. And I don't want to have those regrets. So, and that's one thing that I've always admired you for, is whenever you had an idea or had an opportunity that you wanted to do, you took it, be it coaching, be it your current job, be it what you think might be a future employment opportunity. You always went after it, and I heard your dad talking about that at one point, and I was like, yeah, I completely agree with that. That's one thing and that's kind of also been, because you are one of the people that I look up to most in my life, and that's been,
come on, man, I'll take it. Keep going.
That's one thing that I've tried to learn watching you grow as well, kind of like this podcast. We were kind of shooting the bull a few weeks ago, and you're like, well, I'm thinking about doing a podcast, buying some equipment. 2 weeks later, here we are.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I've picked up a Blue Yeti microphone, and I've done my fair share of research, and I know now how to edit and just do a podcast.
Yeah.
And
it's all about that, and I'm also learning just kind of do more things, I guess, be more self-sufficient, just learn the tools for everyday life that a lot of people don't have. Like when we get done here, I'm going to watch the Cowboys, God bless my heart, but I'm also going to try to hem a pair of dress pants that I just got on my own without taking them to a tailor. If I mess up, oh well, I'll buy another pair at some point.
Yeah. So, you got to have the I'm willing to mess up mentality. I really carried that into the workplace. So for those of y'all listening, I work for a hardware wholesaler right now. And one of the things that they kind of did whenever I got started was they just threw me into the fire. They said, sink or swim, and we'll see what you do. But I was always the type, and I think I have continued to do this in my older years. I'm 26, so whatever those are. But I was always the type that I would try something, and if it didn't work out, then I would change it until I found success in what I was doing.
Right.
I've done that with this, and really, I think if there is anything that I could take and try to give the world, and specifically my friends like you, would be to do those things. Just try and pursue those things. And dude, I hope those are the most dapper pair of pants in the whole wide world after you get done with them.
Well, I appreciate it.
You can start a business out of it.
Yeah, let me start my own tailoring business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've heard this quote a lot too. Failure is only failure if you let it be failure.
Facts.
If you don't take anything from it,
mm-hmm.
I mean, even if this was a one-time shot at something, you had one shot at it. Well, guess what? You learned how to not do it,
mm-hmm.
And then if next time, say down the road, there's another shot and you do it the exact same way that you did when you failed, then yeah, that first time was a failure because you didn't learn anything. If you tried it a different way and still failed, all right, take that from it, learn from it, move on to the next one, and it's just like the old story of Thomas Edison when he invented the light bulb.
I was going to lie and say it was Matthew McConaughey who invented the light bulb, but you beat me to it.
Oh, yeah, good old McConaughey. He was making all his bongos in Austin, Texas when he came up with the light bulb.
Yeah.
But
anyways, Edison.
When he invented the light bulb, he figured out, thousands of ways to not make it, but he found out that one way to do it, and it takes effort and time and failure. As much as we hate that word failure, just by the connotation that it holds, it is only failure if we allow it to be failure.
Major facts. Dude, it's probably getting close to time for us to take a brief hiatus.
All right.
We'll pause for a commercial break and we'll be back with you in just a minute. Welcome back. That Anchor commercial may get old after a while, but it's the only one I got so far. So we're going to keep going. I want to dig a little deeper into some of your thoughts.
All right.
If you had a piece of advice that you would give our listeners, what would that be?
Well, and take this with a grain of salt because I'm only 26, but I have been through quite a bit in the past few years, and we've discussed that has taught me a lot. And I guess a piece of advice is wake up every day with the mentality that you're going to win that day. And it doesn't have to be in terms of money. It doesn't have to be in terms of success. It's just got to be in terms of enjoy the ride that you're on. Every day is different. As monotonous as it may seem, every day is different. And we come into contact with different people with different backgrounds, different attitudes, different perspectives, different success stories. And maybe try to pick their brain a little bit. If it's not sitting there and, interviewing them on kind of what we're doing here. If it's just a question, if you hear something that interests you, ask them about that. Because I've learned, and my college degree is great. I learned a lot about chemicals and thermodynamics and separation methods and all this stuff. But I've learned more just interacting with people than I have any other thing in my life, and hearing where they've come from. And that's really changed my attitude on how I live my life today. And especially surround yourself with like-minded people who have the same goals in mind as you, but don't get that misconstrued with surrounding yourself with people who only agree with what you agree with.
Oh, absolutely.
I was watching, it was a little clip. Michelle Obama was in like a round table questioning, and she said, the biggest mistake that people make is just that they only surround themselves with people who agree with them. And in that sense, they never grow in a very personal, their personal view of things never change. They are so stuck to this one way of looking at things that everything else that is in opposition to that view just seems automatically wrong. When you have to sometimes put yourself in other people's shoes and say, hey, okay, if I was in this situation, I don't know what all they've been through. I don't know, the way they were raised, maybe what religion, what part of the country, what their money situation was growing up. But let me take a step back and take a look at that. And then maybe I will begin to understand why they think the things they think. And my view might change on that as well. And I saw that a lot with the recent presidential election, just how so many people, because this is a very divided nation at the moment in terms of political views, and just seeing how people only want to be told they are right. And I thoroughly enjoy being told I'm right. Don't get me wrong, but it's when I
No, you
get told, but it's when I get told that I'm wrong, and maybe there's a different perspective of things, and I can shut that off as hearsay right then, or I can do a little bit of investigation and find out why is that so. So
It's good
that'd
to
be
have
my,
somebody challenge you.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
always
truly good.
always challenge what you think you know and
Yeah.
the amount that you think you know. And that's what I'm starting to learn.
One of the things that has taken me a while to, I'm almost to year 2 of being married, and it's taken me roughly a year and a half and sometimes I still don't do it, to appreciate when my wife challenges me on things. Because I'm like, you know what? Like, you're my spouse. We're married. We should 100% agree on everything all the time. And there should never, ever be any conflict in between us. And that's just not the case. It's
No,
just
and
not.
no, I mean, and I think that's one of the hallmarks of a healthy marriage is having someone that doesn't hold the same opinions and beliefs and demeanor as you do.
One of the things that you had said earlier, you were talking about the win the day mentality. And I have been around that kind of culture. You hear it in football. It was a program that we were built on. We're going to win the day. We're going to go 1-0 today. And it's amazing that's such a cliche statement. I mean, really it is. But whenever you embody those types of cliches, it really has a positive a positive effect on your life.
Yeah.
And then something else that you had said, that, not that I want to preach here, but something else that you had said is that you don't worry about the next day anymore. And it kind of got me thinking. I've heard this scripture used before, but anyways, there's a passage that says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry for itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And so that's where the win the day mentality is so valuable in what we do every day. It's not about, there's a difference between worrying about tomorrow and truly being like prepared for what tomorrow has come. Right. It's prudent to look ahead, but it's kind of childish to be worried about, what you have coming up this next day. Whenever we were in school, it was good for us to be prepared for a test that we had coming up on Friday, but it wouldn't do us any good if we were just worried about it.
Right.
Because preparedness brings action, but being worried does not.
Yeah. And I can kind of, where that mindset really started to take in with me was over this past year, like I mentioned, working at the tire shop. And I think if you would have looked at me in high school and college and said, oh, and when he's 26, he's going to be working at a tire shop, you probably would have said there ain't no way, because I wouldn't have said that, that was a possibility. But that was the situation at hand, right? Yeah. So when I wake up, I was going to be the best dang worker at that tire shop, and I was going to be the most honest worker at that tire shop every day I went in.
I'm going to speak something into existence over your life. Just go ahead and get ready to receive it. One of these days, you're going to be a big dog, and you're going to tell the story of how you worked at a tire shop when you were 26.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'll be a multimillionaire or highly influential Colton Kincy, and you're going to talk about how you were working at a tire shop and you were 26 years old.
I mean, yeah, that would be great. But even if I'm not, and I appreciate that, but even if I'm not, if I am, still, I don't know, working a $10, or if something happens in my life where that is not so, good or bad.
Yeah.
That would be great. But I don't want that to be the measure of my success and who I am as a person.
Absolutely not. I'm not saying that it should be.
Right.
I'm simply saying that with the change in who you have become over the past few years, you will continue to gain influence and you will use your story effectively.
Yeah. If I can help people, then that would be a I mean, that's a dream of mine, is to
Mm-hmm.
maybe help some, even if it's just one person out of the, kind of the things that I've been through, and being able to share my experience, strength, and hope with them, then it would all be worth it.
Yeah. What other nuggets you got? You got any other things that you want to drop on us?
Yeah, always be busy. It doesn't have to be going out and doing things, working out. Find something. Always be trying to learn new things. Look, there are so many people that I see that just do the same thing over, and we kind of touched on this earlier, and they do the same thing every day. And
This
then
is exactly why I started a podcast, by the way.
Yeah. And
just
then
to have something new to do.
Yeah, exactly. They do the same thing every single day. And then they complain about having to do that same thing every single day, when they could make a decision at any point in time to go out and pick up a new trade, pick up a new skill, a new job. It's just a decision.
Yeah.
And one of my friends said this the other day. He said, like 90% of the time, whenever a thought comes into your mind about potentially doing something, you have 5 to 10 seconds to either give that thought credibility or dismiss it. So I would challenge people to give that thought more credibility than they would dismiss it. Now, I'm not saying go out and become, go rob a bank. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying good, constructive decisions that you've always been passionate about. Just maybe you just didn't have the drive, or it might be a financial thing. You didn't have the finances. If those opportunities present themselves, give it a shot. They print more money every single day. There's ways to make money out there. All right. But all the money in the world cannot buy your happiness. That's something for you to find.
So on one of my episodes of Daily People, I was talking with Zach Morgan. And he was talking about when he was younger, he was always a hustler. And so he would go after, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship. Mostly what he was saying, though, was how he developed the mentality of being an entrepreneur. And he was talking about when he was a kid, he used to take toothpicks, dip them in cinnamon oil, package them 25, and then he would go to school and he would sell them. So, I mean,
he was a businessman doing business.
Exactly. But he had the ideas and he didn't discount them, and he would just go and go and do those things. Give me an example of an idea that you've had recently that you've chased down.
Potentially going back to medical school, or at the very least getting my MBA and finding a means to an end to get that done. And I'm just kind of starting to entertain, because obviously that takes finances, so I'm going to do essentially what it takes to maybe make that happen. Now, that's my mindset right now. I don't know what opportunities will present themselves my way in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know. I have no idea. That's the beauty about this life that we live. But I'm always looking for ways to better myself and do something that I'm passionate about. Because kind of going back to that first job that we touched on, I had a good time at Eastman. I really did. But I also learned pretty early on that maybe that kind of corporate structure is not something that I want to be a part of. There are pros and cons to it. There is a very high sense of stability when you work for a company like that. But then that day-to-day monotony, it is harder to get out of that cycle when, you're in that type of environment. Yeah. And I don't want to say anything bad about the company, because there's a lot of great people that I met, and a lot of managers that I had there really did, one in particular, really helped to mold me into the person that I'm becoming, just because I thought a lot of them and took a lot from their experiences and the way that they did things. But there's different strokes for different folks.
That's right.
So for some people, that's great. For me, I'm learning it's not.
Yeah, I can get with that. What else you got for the day?
I mean, no, if I can leave, if you don't get anything from this podcast, I would encourage you to take this. Just don't let other people define who you are. Know who you are on the inside and who you want to become, and go for it. Don't let other people's thoughts or words, or dissenting views of what that may be of you, don't let them discourage you, and just go for it. Because you don't want to look back in 20 years and have that regret of, I wish I would have done this, because I don't want to look back in 20 years and look at my life and go, dang, I wasted 20 trips around the sun.
Yeah.
Just doing the same thing every single day and wallowing and letting my mindset take me to, a lower place.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
So,
it's kind of hard to grow. So
yeah.
I think that's about it as far as what I have.
Yeah.
So
You want to talk about the minutiae?
You're only saying that because you're looking at my notes.
I am looking at your notes.
So the minutia is that word, and it's the everyday things that people don't think about. Anyways, Colton Kincy, thank you so much for being here. For those of y'all listening, if you want to find Colton, you can find him on Instagram at _Colton_ or on Twitter at Colton. That's
COLTAWN. I am hilarious on Twitter. Frankly, my tweets don't get enough credit that they really deserve, because they are absolutely incredible. They're will fire. Not be disappointed. I'm a meme king. I am an OU sports fanatic. Give me a follow, and I'll be your friend.
If you have an overly dry wit, he is the person for you to follow.
This is very true.
Man, thanks again for your time.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, see you, brother.
See ya.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is your host, John Mark Spear. I wanted to take a moment to just say thank you for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it. If you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me. My email is johnmarkspear0830 @gmail.com.